Many African Americans are totally baffled by the current state of our culture. For not only are we witnessing millions of black men now insisting on self identifying themselves by the N word, but even more ridiculously, believing that it's an empowered statement to declare themselves as being a real one. And as if that wasn't ridiculous enough, we're also witnessing our men routinely calling our women B's and H's, sagging their pants below their asses and glorifying pimps. Most of us can see with our own eyes the deterioration of our culture, but most cannot see what's actually happening or how it's being done. This is because the eyes are useless when the mind is kept ignorant. The truth of the matter is that through white social engineering, we are literally the white oppressors' puppets. I realize that that's a hard pill to swallow, but it is the absolute truth. What many of us naively perceive as being our own created ghetto swagger were actually created through white social engineering. This is not some feeble-minded attempt at scapegoating that attempts to absolve ourselves of our own bad behaviors by wrongly blaming white people, as so many of you have been socially engineered to think. It's the absolute truth. A group's behavior aligns with the narrative they've accepted about themselves, and their identity is shaped by how they see themselves repeatedly depicted within the media. People often become those derogatory media depictions of themselves that they've accepted as being their reality. Therefore, because white oppressive forces writes all of our narratives and controls our mainstream media images, they negatively distorts them in order to covertly negatively steer our culture. It's actually them that are telling us how our group is supposed to act and dress. This allows them to have many of us dressing like sagging clowns and acting like ghetto buffoons. They've even manipulated millions of us to believe that Ebonics is the inherent language of African Americans. And therefore, those of us who are well articulate are often accused of talking white. Because our enemies writes our narratives and controls our media images, by falsely marginalizing our narratives and negatively distorting them, our media images, they've conditioned millions of us to perceive ourselves through a false, inherent, subordinate identity that psychologically assigns us to a subordinate status within the white society. It's how they maintain their dominance over us. In addition to also keeping us believing that, they also keep us believing that we're in some form of crisis, that we therefore need whites to govern over our lives. They also manipulate us to fear each other, to believe that we need the white society to protect us from each other. It's the true reason why they exaggerate the issue of black on black crime. It's also why those crime reenactment TV shows so disproportionately depicts black crimes against blacks. They're designed to subliminally embed the belief into our subconscious mind that we are our worst enemies and that we therefore need the white society to protect us from each other. And the reason why they deny us of a black racially affirming education and instead we're taught of curriculum that exalts only whites is because doing so is designed to subliminally embed the myth of white racial superiority into our subconscious minds. Moreover, that whites are inherently superior and therefore supposed to rule over us. This conditions us to grow up more accepting of their white social dominance over our lives. And the white media's constant and unrelenting negative depiction of our racial group is so much more than just biased media reporting. It's fraudulent propaganda that are also designed to demoralize us, divide us, create black self-loathing, and they shift black collective aggressions away from the white society and they redirect it towards ourselves. As long as we're kept within this collective condition, we can then be ruled over forever. This is the truth of what has been done to us through white social engineering. White social engineering scientists describe this nefarious, unethical practice as merely instilling a value system into the collective minds of the black population that makes us adhere to the authority and existing infrastructure of the white dominant culture. The programming is in fact so effective that it not only makes black people more compliant with white dominance over our lives, in many cases, it makes black people even prefer white dominance over our lives. While we study our Bibles, believing that it contains the true words of God that will protect us, white social scientists studied instead how to hijack the group minds of large targeted populations through their monopoly over information that the targeted population receives. They then use that gained knowledge to mentally enslave millions of black people. And whenever those of us who knows of the truth attempt to teach and shares it amongst the black masses, we're told by the mentally enslaved ones to just shut up and be quiet and keep reading our Bibles. It's how the mentally enslaved ones have been brainwashed to act as wardens of our own mental prison. Brothers and sisters, it has now been more than 400 years since the first enslaved Africans were brought in chains to the U.S. If after all these many centuries, your best assessments are that our collective condition is a result of a silly slave syndrome myth, and that our plight is connected to a Bible written by our most ungodliest enemies and that was brutally beaten into the blood-soaked minds of our enslaved ancestors, you should in fact be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of believing in things that literally insult your own intelligence. It is time to wake up. We will not be a part of the future if we continue holding on to idiotic beliefs that literally insults our own intelligence. We must instead address this disclosed truth. There is in fact neither a struggle nor fight more important or pressing for we today than this one. Because this is how they covertly subjugate our collective minds to confuse us, turn us against each other, and ultimately mentally enslave us. When you hear the truth and you know deep down within your soul that it is the truth, and yet you still refuse to accept and act upon it, it is then that you realize that you are in fact truly mentally enslaved by the white society. When the truth comes, you must share and spread it unrelentingly. Eventually they're going to take me down because I'm telling the truth. I'm not sweating it, because when you're making it rain truth, you got to accept the mud that comes with it. But I ask you all to take the information and share it, share it, share it. Remember, the truth is like a virus to the system of white supremacy that sits upon a throne of lies. Because once the truth is seen, it cannot be unseen. Once it's taught, it cannot be unlearned. And once the mind has been expanded to a greater dimension, a greater radius by the truth, it can never return to a smaller size because the truth won't allow it to. It is in this way the truth is like a virus. So just keep spreading the truth, spreading the truth. One love and peace.